Talking to some friends of mine the other day who greatly disappointed me by telling me they planning on not even voting in November. The way this came up is we was pulling the engine out of this old boy's pickup truck using that big limb and the oak tree in my front yard, and got kind of hot, so we sat on the porch to have some beers, and we started talking about the election. We was all kind of depressed, so I felt like we should play the wish game. Now, the way the wish game works is everyone makes a wish about the subject under consideration, and if it were to come true, it would greatly improve the situation. And so my friend Bootsy says, well, I wish that this November we'd have a viable candidate who was a true friend of the international proletariat rather than being enslaved to the international money class. And then my friend Buster said, well, I wish that the United States would be a true constitutional democracy instead of just being some form of oligarchy. So I said, well, I wish that I had me a damn magic flying pony that fighted rainbows. And my two friends looked at me and said, what the hell are you talking about? And I said, well, I just thought somebody should make some wish that had some chance of coming true. And so Bootsy looked at me and said, are you saying that you agree that we are not a democracy, we're actually an oligarchy? And I said, I am. And Bootsy said, well, what kind of oligarchy? A plutocracy, perhaps? And I said, maybe. And Bootsy said, well, maybe we are a kleptocracy. And I said, could be. So we talked about it for a while over some more beers, and in the end, we decided that the proper characterization for the American system is we are a plutocratic oligarchy masquerading as a dysfunctional constitutional republic. And that's when them two fellows told me they wasn't going to vote in November. And I said, oh, boys, that's a bad choice. You got to vote in November. And Bootsy said, what are you talking about? You just agreed we're not a democracy. You agreed we are a plutocratic oligarchy merely masquerading as a dysfunctional constitutional republic, so I vote. And I said, well, let me put it to you this way. Pretend we're living back in medieval times. Now, I knew that'd grab me because we're all students of history. We all seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail at least 50 times. We particularly like that dynasty, knowing peasant. Fellow lives in the self-governing anarchic collective. We think we'd like that. But anyway, I thought that'd grab, and it did because Buster said, intriguing. And Bootsy said, proceed with your analogy. And so I did. And I said, okay, got a big group of landless serfs lorded over by a small group of landowners. We got semi-urban guilds of skilled workers. We got a small group of very wealthy merchant princes. And then we got a scholarly class that's thoroughly enthralled to the powers that be. And Buster said, oh, about what we got now in the United States under late capitalism. And I said, exactly. And I said, but we've come upon an unusual situation, which is our ruler has died and we get to choose a new ruler. And Buster said, oh, so the way Mr. Obama's going out, so we get to elect a new one. And then Buster said, I wonder what he's going to do now that he's president. He's going to do them important ex-president things. Buster said, yeah, he could do like, Bush did. He learned to paint, sunsets and happy clown faces. He worked with Congress for a long time. He should be able to do that. And I said, fellas, let's focus, stay on point. And they said, okay, we're sorry. Proceed with the whole analogy. And so I did. And I said, well, we get to elect our ruler, but we're not going to be a democracy. And Buster said, wait a minute. If we elect a ruler, don't that make us a democracy? And I said, no, all we're doing is choosing which oligarchy is going to lord it over us for the foreseeable future. And then Bootsy said, well, why are we even taking part of this masquerade? Just tell them we're not going to do it. And I said, well, we got a pretty good reason for taking part in this masquerade, and that's because if we don't choose a ruler, the surrounding royal houses are all going to wage bloody war against each other. Then the winter's going to invade us, chop our heads off, put them on sticks, and hold a wild drunken orgy among our rotten corpses. And so Buster said, well, that'd be a quite unfortunate situation. And Bootsy said, well, I think we should take part in this masquerade. And I said, good choice. I said, but there's some other reasons why we should take part in this masquerade. And one is because there's a real choice between the two ruling houses between which we choose. And one is headed by Queen Clintonia. Now, Queen Clintonia, she come and give us a speech about why she'd be such a great ruler. And she had this big banquet for a lot of rich folk. And they had things like, roast pheasant under glass and squab and a big old pig with an apple in his mouth and drank all kinds of wine. And then she gave this speech about how she was so upset about there being so much hunger and starvation in the kingdom. Like the serfs trying to feed a family of 12, 14 on 2 damn turnips and a potato. And then she went next door to the next banquet hall where more of the common folk were, and she wore her resplendent robes and her crown and all the jewelry. It was worth more money than most of us ever seen in a lifetime. And she said that she was all upset at the wealth inequality that she saw in the kingdom. How does a few folk up top got everything, the rest of us down below got next to nothing. That was bad, need to change that. Then she went next door to the next banquet hall to speak to the richest of the merchant princes, but we don't know what she said, nobody tell us. But we do know they liked it because they all tossed like diamonds and rubies into her treasure box, and she took them back to her castle. And Bucci said, I don't think I like Queen Clintonia. And Buster said, I don't either. Sounds like she says the right thing, but I don't really trust her to do the right thing. And I said, well, to be fair, fellas, you need to hear who the other contender for ruler is. And I said, okay, who is it? And I said, it's Sir Donald Trumpenstein. And Bucci said, Sir Donald, ain't even a king? And I said, no, ain't no king, never been a king. He's a rich merchant prince. His daddy gave him all his money. He's had all kinds of big deals all over the place, many of which ended in financial disaster for those involved. He always seemed to make a good deal of money. But he has seized control of one of the ancient ruling houses, and he says he wants to be our ruler. And he came and gave us a speech, and he said, I know I've never been a ruler, but I know the best about ruling, and I'll make the best rules, and with the best rules, I'll be the best ruler. So if you want the best ruler, you need to choose me, because I'll be the greatest ruler ever to be a ruler. And Bucci said, that sounds like a horse hockey to me. I mean, did he give any policy specifics? And I said, well, he kind of pointed out in the crowd, and he pointed out some of our friends and neighbors, and he said they was evil folk and spread death and destruction among us because they come from foreign parts. And pointed at some other folk, for years, he said they belonged to some evil religious group that was going to spread more death and destruction among us, do things like kidnap our children and, roast our babies. Which struck me as kind of odd because most of them folks won't even eat barbecue, much less roasted baby. And Bucci said, anybody fall for that horse hockey? And I said, well, some people started giving folks they known for years the Google eye like they didn't trust him. And Buster said, well, so we run him out of the kingdom, won't they just come back? And I said, no, he says he's going to dig a big old moat all the way around the kingdom and never come back in. And Bucci said, well, Sir Donald, he just sounds like a jackass to me. He just, blaming all your friends and neighbors for things going wrong. And Bucci said, yeah, that's just kind of divide and conquer is what I think. I don't going to vote for him neither. I don't think I'm going to vote for any of them. I mean, let them go ahead and cut our heads off, put them on stakes, and then hold a wild drunken orgy among our rotten corpses. At least we won't feel like a sucker. And I said, well, there's another reasons why we might want to choose, and that's good Sir Bernard. And Bucci said, all right, who's good Sir Bernard? I said, well, he's a great champion of the people, kind of a knight in shining armor, and he's contending for control of the royal house headed by Queen Clintonia. And he says that if he becomes our ruler, he wants to just make us a true democracy and let us work together to solve our own problems. But he has also said that if he does not seize control of the royal house, that we should support Queen Clintonia because Sir Donald Trumpenstein is such a jackass. And then there's another reason why we might want to go for Queen Clintonia, and it's because of the history of her ruling house. And Bucci said, all right, I like history, tell me about it. I said, well, her ruling house has sent us a number of very good rulers in the past. There's King Franklin and Roosevelt, who was another great champion of the people, and established a special fortune box that the old folks could go to, get themselves a couple jewels and sell, and that way they could have more food than just 2 damn turnips and potato. And he was followed by King Harry the True Man, who continued policies of King Franklin. And then there was good King John, his beautiful Queen Jacqueline, although he died young in battle and couldn't quite fulfill his promise. But he was succeeded by King Lyndon of Johnsonia, who also believed in championed the needs of the people, was a big believer of equality of all the folks in the kingdom. And so that might be a reason to vote for Queen Clintonia. And Bucci said, well, how about the royal ruling house of Sir Donald Trumpenstein? I said, well, they give us a couple good ones. They sent us Sir Abraham of Lincolnia, and he made it illegal to actually buy and sell the serfs. And then King Theodore Roosevelt, who was a cousin of King Franklin, And he did some pretty good things too, like trying to preserve the forest lands from the depredations of the landed gentry. But beyond that, there weren't too many good ones beside King Dwight of Eisenhower, who started our road system that helps us to trade. But beyond that, they ain't been too good. Their basic philosophy is that the rich are the smartest among us. They should be allowed to do what they want. And then when they have their big old, banquets, they can throw what they don't eat out the window. There'll be a big old pile. The rest of us can gotta dig through and get something to eat. They call that trickle down. Buster and Bootsy looked at each other and they said, well, if we gotta make a choice, I know what my choice is. And I said, well, fellas, you gotta make a choice, so make it. And so they did. And then we talked some more about the election, and we decided what our choice is going to be in November. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to turn up on my porch early in the morning on election day. We're going to drink ourselves about a quart of scotch. And then we're going to call ourselves a taxi cab because we ain't such schmucks that we're going to drive drunk. And we're going to go to the polling place. We'll have that taxi driver schlep us over there. Then we'll crawl into the voting booth and we're going to cast our votes for Queen Clintonia. Then we're going to crawl back into the taxi cab, have us bring it back to my porch, and we're going to drink ourselves another quart of scotch, and we're going to cross that front yard over there into the road, and just going to spend the night in the gutter. And we'll wake up next morning about 11 or 12 and see who our new ruler's going to be. And if it's Queen Clintonia, we'll make the best of it. If it's Sir Donald Trumpenstein, we have to decide on our next move. Buster says next move should be north of Canada. Bootsy says next move should be south of Mexico. I say next move needs to be stay right here and, give Sir Donald Trumpenstein hell for 4 years. And that's our suggestion to you. So if you want to join us early morning of election day, that's fine, but you got to bring your own scotch.